Next generation 911 is changing what public safety networks can do. For decades, 911 was mostly about voice, a phone number, and a location record that may or may not have been accurate enough when it mattered the most. That was the old model. It worked because it had to work, but it was never designed for the world that we live in now. Today, new devices can generate multimedia data, and ECCs are ready to consume it. We're building the NG911 superhighway. But did we forget the on-ramps that are needed for the data? That's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a NENA certified EMP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I try to bring you the latest in public safety news and technology for modern emergency communications. Today, I want to dive into how all that new multimedia that's starting to exist in the commercial and public space, as well as the millions of IoT devices that are now capturing that data, are going to utilize this new NG911 superhighway to get their critical situational awareness from where the event is happening to the ECCs and ultimately first responders in the field. Now, a 911 call may involve voice, video, text, even pictures, telematics, and wearable information, building sensor data, alarm system information, in addition to access control events, crash notification, and security camera feeds. There might be floor plans, environmental sensors, and a whole lot more that exists today. Fortunately, the public safety side of the network is being built to accept more than just a voice call, and maybe a callback number that's correct if you're lucky. Today, ESINets and NG911 core services are delivering smarter, more flexible data during emergency communications. Yeah, that's a huge step forward. But is there still a problem? Yeah, I think so, because a lot of that data that public safety needs and wants doesn't originate inside the public safety network. No, it starts somewhere else, inside a corporate network, inside a hospital, a university, a school district, a manufacturing plant, or a large enterprise campus. It might be in the cloud voice platform, more and more connected vehicle systems, and more generic IoT platforms, including private security systems and regional global data centers. The question that I've been asking for years is, while we build a very smart public safety network on one side of the fence, and in many cases we've already got an intelligent private enterprise network on the other side, as well as inside the pockets of most citizens today with their smartphones, one very simple question remains. How does all that data get from one side of the fence to the other? Because if the answer to that is still going to be, well, we'll figure that out later, then we've got a big problem. Because while that was a sufficient answer 10 or maybe 15 years ago, NG911 is now here on the public safety side, so the shot clock is starting to wind down. The data exists, but that doesn't mean 911 can use it. Large corporations and institutions are already building sophisticated networks. They need them to operate their businesses. They centralize services regionally, nationally, and even globally. Thank you, modern broadband connectivity. They're moving voice and communications platforms to the cloud and have been doing it for decades. They've mastered the process with global data centers, security platforms, identity systems, firewalls, authentication tools, as well as encrypted transport, cloud applications, and private network architectures that control how the networks not only move their data, but keep it isolated and protected while still running on public internet connectivity. Yeah, that makes sense for the enterprise. Public safety has a different mission. But when someone dials 911 from one of those commercial networks, or when an emergency event happens inside one of those locations, public safety now needs access to that information, where it exists. Things like a simple "where is the caller" to what building are they in, what floor, what room, and what camera feed is nearby. The ECC would like to know if an alarm was triggered. Did a vehicle crash? Did a sensor detect smoke, chemical, or a gunshot? Or does an IoT device detect flooding, access control anomalies, or panic button activations. We read about stories that have that information every day in the news. Then, what about a floor plan? Does it exist? Are there known hazards, static or dynamic? And is there any on-site staff already responding? You see, that information likely already exists, but unfortunately, existing and being available to emergency responders are two very different things. Next generation 911 needs OnRamps. I like to think of the ESINet as a public safety superhighway. It was built to move emergency communications and data more intelligently from the legacy 911 network. It can support new types of information, and it can route more efficiently based on known or detected data. It can connect agencies, support more flexible and resilient emergency communications, and even provide a NENA i3 standards-based collaboration functional element that allows any agency with credentials to interwork with each other at levels never before experienced. But even the best highway needs entrance and exit on-ramps. Without them, traffic can't get on the highway or exit where they need to. Now, while the exits exist, or being built so ECCs can receive the information, today there are very few or even very crude on-ramps that enterprise networks can use or deliver their data to. You're not going to buy a Lamborghini and then have to drive down a 5-mile dirt road to get on the expressway. Nor are you going to afford somebody to transport it there for you. No, you got to pave all the roads. Now, as I said, for years I've been preaching that corporate, campus, healthcare, education, transportation, utility, and other private networks are going to become the important elements that hold the data origination points. But a trusted connection between those private networks and public safety networks has to be developed and implemented. You've got to have security, because without it, it would be like your local bank installing a screen door on the back of the money vault. Nobody's going to try to blast open the steel door. No, they're going to go around back and cut the back screen door with a pocket knife. Now, that doesn't mean every company gets to dump random data directly into the PSAP. No, that'll never work, please. Because the last thing public safety needs is an unfiltered fire hose of mystery data from every building automation system, every alarm panel, every cloud platform, and every internet-connected toaster that's got a firmware update problem. No, there has to be a structure. There has to be trust. There has to be authentication. And there's got to be encryption so the data doesn't get tampered with. That data needs to be validated, and there's got to be a policy in place. There's got to be absolute clear rules of who is allowed to send what, when, and how, as well as under what conditions. Push, pull, or trusted middleman. Pick your poison. Now, there's probably several different ways that this connection can and will happen. As a first phase deployment, a large trusted enterprise may have a pre-negotiated trust relationship that allows certain validated data to flow to the ESINet or NG911 environment. That'll probably be large corporations that can provide strong authentication, tokens, certificates, encryption, and define rules about what data that they're able to share, and during what emergency event types. In other cases, the enterprise might not push the full data package directly. Instead, it may provide a security reference, such as a URI, that basically allows authorized public safety systems to retrieve the information when they need it, and it's allowed. Still, in other cases, a validated third-party aggregator might sit between the enterprise and public safety. That way, the aggregator could be responsible for verifying the source, normalizing the data, and authenticating the sender. Whatever is validated gets forwarded to public safety in a usable way. Now, each one of those models has advantages and it's got disadvantages. But one thing they all have is work. This doesn't all happen magically. Yeah, some of it is architecture. It's not public safety's responsibility to build, design, or implement those internal infrastructures. No, it's their responsibility to at least define an interface API or framework, as well as the connectivity standards that allows that public architecture to exist in a consumable manner. Public safety didn't invent the telephone system, or 911 for that matter. They just used that technology to reach them in a very specific way. Let's not get the missions confused. But that's the current task on the table that's only been understood by a few people, and it's something that's been pushed off until the network existed. Well, read the road signs, because one right in front of us today is a blue and white one that says food, service, and fuel next exit. And I'm hungry and need gas. The intelligence layer matters. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we could make is thinking that this is just about connecting two networks. No, it is not. It's about creating that intelligent layer between two very different worlds. The enterprise world cares about business continuity, security, compliance, customer experience, as well as operations liability and protecting private infrastructure. But in many cases, they're already doing that, especially banks, airlines, medical facilities, you name it. Basically, they're ready with just a little adoption. But the public safety world, on the other hand, cares about emergency response, caller safety, responder safety, incident management, jurisdictional concerns, and chain of custody, as well as reliability and speed. Yeah, those worlds overlap a little bit, especially during an emergency, but they are not the same. And overexposing the attack surfaces on both sides have very dramatic outcomes. That means the connections between the two of them has to do much more than just move packets. It's got to understand identity. It has to understand trust. It needs to understand timing, as well as permissions, what data is useful and what data is dangerous, and more importantly, what data is just noise wearing a fancy badge, because bad data delivered quickly is not innovation. It's just a problem with much better bandwidth. Without the link, we're still stuck in the past. Look, here's the uncomfortable part people don't want to talk about. If our enterprise networks has the data and the ESInet can receive the data, but there's no trusted path between them, then you have to ask yourself, what have we really solved? And the answer to that is not nearly enough. Yeah, we may have a smarter public safety network. We may have richer data inside the enterprise networks. We might have cloud communications, IoT sensors, video platforms, access control systems, and crash notification systems, all generating valuable information. But without that critical interconnection layer, public safety might still receive just a little more than a voice call and a location estimate that only contains a civic address and not usable situational awareness or dispatchable location details. I've used this example 100 times. If the Super Bowl is being filmed in high definition, rich color TV, and all you have at your house is a 9-inch black and white countertop set, that's the best quality you're going to receive. Or more applicable, the game's being filmed in HD TV. You've got an HD TV in your home, but your local TV or cable station is broadcasting in black and white. That's the thing about networks. You're only going to get the capabilities of the weakest link. And that may be the NG911 OnRamp. You know, that dirt road. So in a lot of cases, this starts to look a lot like legacy 911, just with a lot of hype and better marketing. And that's something that not a lot of people want to admit. You see, the value of NG911 is not just public safety can technically receive more data. The true value that's meaningful is that validated, trusted data can actually reach public safety when it matters. That is what the mission is. The bottom line, the next phase of NG911 can't be about building smarter ESINets. It needs to be about building the trusted public on-ramps into the existing ESINet. That means local and regional planning. It means enterprise involvement. It means public safety leadership. And it means standards. It means security. And it means authentication, as well as policy and governance. And yeah, it means uncomfortable conversations between large corporations like hospitals, universities, and cloud providers, as well as alarm companies, vehicle platforms, and data aggregators. Because the emergency data of the future is not going to originate inside the 911 network. No, much of it is going to originate outside the 911 network. And the question is whether we're ready to interconnect those two worlds safely, intelligently, and responsibly. Because if we don't, we may still end up with intelligent buildings, intelligent vehicles, and intelligent networks with intelligent sensors and intelligent ESINets, with everybody standing around the campfire during an emergency with no trusted road between any of them. And that would become the most frustrating failure of all. Not because the data didn't exist, but because we never built the OnRamp. That wraps up this episode of Tips Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. Remember to follow me on social media. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Hey, it's Fletch. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something new. Remember to catch all of my previous episodes of Tips Today in Public Safety, published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on most social media platforms and streaming 24/7 at 911tips.com. My blogs are located at fletch.tv, and my personal website is at fletch911.com. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the algorithms. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to Tips Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.